Winter in Britain before the advent of central heating was a true test of endurance, shaping entire generations of children. Houses trembled with drafts, bedrooms turned icy overnight, and mornings began with a sharp breath visible in the air. Comfort was never assured. Yet families learned to adapt with resourcefulness and routine. For children, those winters carried both hardship and cherished memories. From scraping frost off windows to gathering in kitchens warmed by a single stove, daily life was marked by resilience. It was in those small rituals of survival that warmth was found, weaving stories that have remained vivid through the decades. If this content speaks to you, don't let the story end here. Leave a comment, join the conversation, and help us keep these voices alive. Subscribe for more journeys through time, and together, let's ensure these cities are never forgotten. Without further ado, let's continue. The coal fire was the heart of countless British homes before central heating existed. Children pressed close to the flames, feeling heat that barely reached beyond the living room walls. The soft glow offered comfort even as hallways and bedrooms stayed freezing. Families gathered around that one room, drawn together by both necessity and companionship. Sparks popped and smoke clung to clothes, leaving a scent that followed children to bed. Coal was rationed with care, every bucket carried from the shed treated like treasure. Fires were never left to burn wastefully, and parents taught their children to feed them sparingly. Evenings passed with board games, radio shows, and homework done in the flicker of firelight. Brothers and sisters shared stools or knelt on the rug, gently pushing for a closer spot. That warmth united them in quiet rituals that became unforgettable. Though its reach was limited, the coal fire dictated the rhythm of winter. Its sounds, smell, and glow were etched into memory, defining how families endured the cold within their homes. Bedtime in winter meant bracing for the chill. Hot water bottles wrapped in towels or knitted covers became essential companions tucked beneath blankets before climbing in. The first touch was scalding, but the warmth soon spread through the icy sheets. Mothers boiled kettle after kettle, filling bottles for every bed in the house. Sometimes heated stones or ceramic pigs served the same purpose. These simple methods turned freezing nights into something bearable, offering relief from the biting air. Children often competed for the warmest spot, hugging bottles to their chests or pressing them against their feet. Siblings sometimes shared beds, pooling their body heat beneath piles of blankets. That closeness built memories of endurance. Even in the darkest months, the hot water bottle symbolized comfort, a nightly defense against rooms where breath froze in the air. Mornings revealed delicate frost patterns spreading across glass panes. Children gazed in awe at the icy designs, tracing them with numb fingers even as the cold nipped at their skin. Those frozen patterns were beautiful, yet they reminded everyone how little warmth existed beyond the fire's reach. Breath hung in misty clouds in unheated rooms, and ice sometimes formed on the inside of windows. Blankets stacked high on beds became shields, though they couldn't stop the cold seeping through cracked frames. Families accepted the sight as part of daily life. Morning routines included wiping away frost before sunlight could properly enter. Pulling on school uniforms was a race against the chill, shivers lasting until they reached the school's single heated room. Despite the discomfort, those frosted windows held a certain magic, a mix of struggle and wonder, a fragile art formed by winter nights. Surviving indoors meant wearing more than one set of clothes. Children layered vests, sweaters, and socks, turning pajamas into daywear, yet still the cold crept through. Dressing for indoors felt just as important as preparing to go outside. Wool sweaters were often hand-knitted, passed down between siblings, patched and mended until they carried years of history. Scarves and hats were worn even at the dinner table, a sight made normal by necessity. Every scrap of fabric mattered. Cold mornings demanded courage to climb out from beneath piles of blankets. Clothes warmed by the fire were pulled on quickly before their heat faded. Dressing became part of the battle against endless drafts. The layers never promised comfort, but they provided a shield. These habits defined long winters, reminding families of the creativity required to endure them. The kitchen often doubled as the warmest room in the house. Cooking meals brought both sustenance and heat, filling small spaces with the scent of stews and baking bread. Families gathered near the oven, drawn by warmth as much as by food. Pots simmered for hours, their steam fogging the windows and softening winter's sting. Mothers stretched ingredients carefully, ensuring the meal fed everyone while keeping the stove alive. Every dish carried the dual purpose of nourishment and comfort, blending survival with tradition. Children lingered nearby, spreading homework across the kitchen table, cheeks flushed by the heat. The clatter of cutlery and bubbling of pots became the soundtrack of winter evenings. Shared meals bound families together in those moments. When the cooking stopped, warmth faded quickly, leaving the kitchen cold again. But for those few hours, the heat turned it into a sanctuary where family life flourished. Bedrooms were rarely warm, and children often shared beds to fight the cold. Pressed close together, they created small pockets of heat, a comfort in homes where only one room was heated. Brothers and sisters whispered under the blankets, turning necessity into companionship. Bed sharing was common not only for warmth but also due to space. Mattresses sagged under the weight of several children, yet that closeness brought security. Shivering eased when warmth was shared, and laughter softened the chill. Nighttime rituals included arguing over the middle spot or clinging to the warmest corner. Blankets piled high, but icy drafts still crept in, testing even the tightest bond. The memory of toes brushing in the cold remains vivid. Though far from luxury, those shared beds built connections between siblings. Those nights taught lessons of endurance, turning hardship into togetherness that defined childhood winters. Windows were constant gateways for the cold. Heavy curtains, sometimes doubled with blankets, were pinned across frames to block icy air. Fabric became a barrier as vital as coal or clothing. Mothers sewed extra layers from whatever scraps were available, transforming old cloth into makeshift insulation. Curtains swayed gently in the drafts, a reminder that the fight against winter was never fully won. Children pulled them closed early in the evening, eager to trap any hint of warmth. The dim glow of lamps behind heavy fabric made rooms feel cocooned against the frost. Curtains became symbols of safety as much as practicality. Though they couldn't completely banish the chill, they softened the bite of long nights. Their presence lingers in memory, tied to the rhythm of drawing them shut against the cold. Children faced long days in classrooms where warmth was scarce. Breath hung in the air like smoke, and hands reddened from writing with frozen fingers. Teachers encouraged students to keep coats and scarves on during lessons. Old stoves or weak radiators struggled to heat large spaces, leaving corners icy and windows misted. Discomfort became part of learning, a silent challenge endured with patience. The routine continued, no matter how numb the room felt. Playtime brought brief bursts of joy in snow-covered yards, but children returned inside soaked and shivering. Wet mittens steamed faintly as they dried beside feeble heaters, filling the room with the smell of damp wool. Lessons went on amid trembling hands and quiet sighs. The sound of scratching pens, chalk dust, and frosted glass became inseparable from education. Those school days forged endurance as much as they imparted knowledge. Bathrooms were among the coldest places in the house. Tiles held the chill, and condensation froze on mirrors, turning each bath into a daunting ritual. Children braced for the shock of undressing. Water was often heated in kettles or boilers and carried carefully to fill a tin tub. Steam rose quickly, turning the room into a brief oasis, but the warmth vanished as soon as the bath ended. The dash for towels was always frantic. Siblings often bathed one after another, sharing the effort of heating water. Splashes echoed against bare walls, and laughter helped mask the discomfort. The experience was both practical and memorable. When the last drop drained away, the cold rushed back instantly. Bath time was survival wrapped in routine, a necessary chore etched into the rhythm of childhood winters. Night brought little escape from the unrelenting cold, and for children, the bed was both refuge and challenge. Layers of wool blankets pressed down with comforting weight, trapping whatever warmth their bodies could create. Movement became difficult under the heavy pile, yet that burden was welcomed. Without it, the night air crept into every corner, stealing sleep. Mothers and grandmothers took pride in crafting patchwork quilts from scraps of worn clothes, flour sacks, or old curtains. Every square told a story of thrift and love, stitched patiently by the fire during long evenings. These quilts were more than simple coverings. They were family history, proof of resourcefulness in times when new fabric was a luxury. Each one, unique in design, was a tapestry of survival and art. Children tucked themselves deep beneath them, faces peeking out as breath turned to mist. Sometimes siblings shared a bed, their combined warmth fighting against icy drafts sneaking through cracks in walls and windows. Breathing under the covers felt warmer than the air outside, a small pocket of comfort in otherwise merciless nights. The sensation of cold sheets giving way to spreading warmth became part of winter memory. Though the cold never disappeared, the blankets and quilts brought reassurance. They weren't just practical objects but symbols of care, protection, and ingenuity. The sight of a folded quilt at the foot of the bed carried the promise of safety, reminding children that even in the harshest winters, their families found ways to keep them warm. Looking back, the winters that British children endured before central heating were defined by improvisation, resilience, and shared closeness. From coal fires and hot water bottles to heavy curtains and handmade quilts, survival meant turning hardship into ritual. These habits carried not only warmth but also a rhythm of life that defined an entire generation. The memories of frosted windows, drafty schools, and crowded beds remain vivid reminders of a time when comfort was scarce but togetherness abundant. The soundscape of winter added to its intensity. Outside, the wind howled through chimneys and around corners, rattling shutters and whistling past eaves. Children listened from inside, imagining the storms as vast and wild, yet felt safe in the glow of the living room fire. The contrast between the chaos outdoors and the small circles of warmth indoors heightened the sense of family unity. Every crackle of coal and creak of wooden floors became a familiar companion, part of the rhythm of the season. Even simple chores became lessons in endurance. Carrying coal from the shed to the hearth required strength and balance, each bucket a small triumph against frostbitten hands. Fetching water, peeling potatoes, and preparing the evening meal became physical exercises against the cold, while teaching children patience and diligence. These daily tasks were more than maintenance. They were exercises in resilience, forming habits that would carry into adulthood. School journeys in winter tested both patience and resolve. Children trudged through snow and icy streets to reach classrooms, boots squelching in slush, scarves wrapped tight against the wind. Walking together, they shared stories and laughter, even while toes and fingers went numb. Slippery pavements and frozen steps demanded attention and agility, and missteps were met with quick recovery, teaching children how to navigate both the literal and metaphorical obstacles of life. Indoor play also adapted to the cold. When the garden or yard was too frozen to venture outside, children turned to board games, card tricks, or storytelling. Imagination became the bridge between harsh weather and joyful activity. Siblings created miniature worlds on tabletops, while the flickering firelight cast shadows that brought those stories to life. Winter evenings taught creativity within confinement, showing that warmth of mind could complement warmth of body. Evenings were punctuated by routines that gave structure to the long nights. The sound of kettles boiling, the clatter of dishes, and the gentle hum of the radio marked transitions between chores, homework, and family leisure. These small patterns offered stability, transforming a harsh season into a predictable rhythm. Children learned the comfort of repetition, finding reassurance in familiar sounds and scents amidst uncertainty outside. Visits from neighbors and extended family brought relief and connection. Bringing gifts of coal, preserved vegetables, or baked goods strengthened communal bonds. Tea brewed in large pots, shared by friends and family, became a ritual of warmth and care. In cities and villages alike, these small gestures fostered solidarity, reminding everyone that survival was easier when shared. Winter hardships thus became occasions for generosity, teaching children the importance of community in times of need. The nights were long and unforgiving, yet they offered moments of quiet reflection. Children listened to the creaks of the house settling, the occasional howl of wind, and the distant bark of dogs, learning to find rhythm and comfort in the subtle sounds of winter. These hours often became a time for storytelling, with parents and grandparents sharing tales from their own childhoods, blending history, imagination, and cautionary lessons. The stories were a balm against the cold, creating warmth that coal and blankets alone could not provide. Winter mornings demanded patience and determination. Frosted windows delayed routines as children scraped ice and wiped mist before sunlight could enter. Clothing had to be layered meticulously, with woolen jumpers, scarves, gloves, and heavy socks forming shields against the chill. Breakfast was often a hasty affair, yet it was a vital ritual, providing energy to face the icy streets and the day ahead. These mornings taught children the discipline of preparation and the reward of perseverance, lessons that extended far beyond the season. Communal spaces like kitchens and living rooms became arenas of strategy and survival. Siblings negotiated seating near the hearth, balancing proximity to warmth with space for homework or games. The clatter of spoons, the hiss of steam from kettles, and the crackle of fire became a symphony of domestic life. Even in these constrained quarters, children learned to cooperate, share resources, and create small pockets of joy. The room's heat, though fleeting, was enough to forge bonds that would endure far longer than the winter itself. The outdoors remained a teacher of resilience and creativity. Snow and ice presented challenges that required adaptability. Children built snow forts, sculpted snowmen, and invented new games to occupy the frozen playgrounds. Every slip and fall was an opportunity to learn balance, courage, and resourcefulness. Parents watched with both pride and anxiety, aware that these simple acts of play were shaping character as much as any classroom lesson. Winter was a school in itself, offering lessons in patience, ingenuity, and joy despite hardship. Even the smallest objects carried importance in winter. Hot water bottles, kettles, thick blankets, and well-worn coats became talismans of comfort. Children learned to treat these items with care, understanding that their survival and comfort depended on them. Sharing warmth, whether through a hot bottle or a layered quilt, became a natural extension of kindness and cooperation. These lessons were subtle yet profound, teaching the next generation about empathy and interdependence. Daily routines were punctuated by rituals of endurance. Tasks like chopping wood, stoking the fire, or drawing water from wells were repeated with precision and care. Each action reinforced the rhythm of life, offering predictability amid the harshness of winter. Children observed and participated, internalizing skills and attitudes that would shape them into resourceful adults. The repetition of these small chores taught resilience not through reward, but through necessity, turning everyday survival into lifelong lessons. If these memories moved you, don't let the story end here. Leave a comment, join the conversation, and help us keep these voices alive. Subscribe for more journeys through time, and together, let's ensure these cities are never forgotten. See you next time.